Hello everyone, welcome to episode 26 of the 240p Club.
2666.
The most evil podcast ever.
And it's not even Halloween yet.
No, we didn't even reach Halloween yet. Might have a Halloween themed podcast, who knows. If you tuned in last week, we mentioned a few funny stories about arcades and tournaments and stuff, and I found out that Nikki here happens to have a connection to the arcade I went to for my 12th birthday. There's this little place, it was called Exhilarama. I don't even know if it's still around. Apparently it is. We researched this.
It's not
as Exhilarama. No, it's
right,
not.
It's Voorhees Town Center, I believe.
Oh, yeah, they renamed it, and it's different. Yeah, in New Jersey. It turns out her father had some involvement in that place, which is like, wow, sure, small world.
It really is. So maybe technically we knew each other in a previous life.
Maybe, who knows? Mm-hmm. That could happen.
Which means I probably got sick of you the same way I'm sick of you now.
Yeah, you did. Bloody hell.
Yeah, exactly. But what do you know? Maybe we can't live without each other.
Yeah. But yeah, we mentioned, the funny part is you're mentioning, like, you know, this is the first time at that arcade, on my 12th birthday, I ever played Mortal Kombat 2. There's a huge line for it, and I knew I was about to get my ass whooped because I didn't really know any of the moves, except for some of the stuff from Mortal Kombat 1. So, picked Sub-Zero, quickly got my ass kicked, but it was so much fun. That place was cool. They had like a roller coaster in there. It was very small, but it went around like a bunch of times. It was just, single track, maybe. You can't even count this as a roller coaster, but it was a lot of fun over there. And when you're turning 12, it's like, oh, I'm surrounded by arcade machines, and no, this is going to be fun.
It's almost like heaven.
Yeah, it was heaven back in the day. So, we were talking about arcade machines, arcade memories. I know we have a lot of arcade memories between us all. Arcades were like a lost art. They're going the way of the dinosaur because people could just pick up a controller, to go online, and for a small fee to the Microsoft Corporation or Sony, depending on what system you're using, or even Nintendo's coming out with one, or the PC, you can play whoever you want, anywhere in the world, at any game that is currently supported. So, arcades, you don't really need to go to an arcade to challenge people to be the best, at your particular game. Whereas, kids are lining up the arcade to play Street Fighter 2. Kids are turning on ESPN and watching some pros whoop some ass at Street Fighter 5 during the EVO broadcasts and other tournaments. We covered that last week. But yeah, we mentioned arcades quite a bit, and we all have our wonderful arcade stories. I took over a X-Men versus Street Fighter machine down in Wildwood and wouldn't let go of it, and on a single quarter I whooped every challenger and wound up whooping the Apocalypse at the end. All fun stuff.
Who was your main team?
I believe I was Cyclops and Wolverine, actually.
Yeah, so you really can't go wrong with either.
No. But Wolverine used to just mess people up, and once he took a few hits, tagging Cyclops, do some of those combos, right back to Wolverine. People figured it out after a while. The next version, Marvel vs. Capcom, people figured out Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk as a killer team. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, you had a few arcade stories, and we were talking about before we hit the record button, and it's just like, hey, you know what? Why don't we just hit the record button and you continue your story here?
Exactly, yeah. So it was when Mortal Kombat 2 had just come out. I was in, I'm kind of dating myself here, but I was in elementary school. And, of course, when you think of elementary kids, you don't think of Mortal Kombat. Because, elementary school kids should not be touching Mortal Kombat.
No, trust me. It was all over my school.
Yeah, it was all over
Mortal Kombat 1 came out when I was in, 6th grade, I think, and everyone went nuts over it.
Yep, it was Mortal Kombat 2 for me.
And the more Congress went nuts over it, because there was huge congressional hearings on video game violence thanks to that game, and Night Trap for Sega CD. which, looks like a cheesy B horror movie now. But back in the day, it was scary as could be. Congress was getting up in arms about that. Mortal Kombat, video game violence. They had to come out with a rating system, blah, 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 blah. But I'm getting off a tangent here. 6th grade, no matter what they were doing to Mortal Kombat, it made it just more and more awesome.
Exactly. And for me, like I said, I'm a little bit younger, so Mortal Kombat 2 was around when I was in 2nd grade. And we had...
Oh, man, you're really young.
Yeah. So we had a deli. It was like around the corner from the elementary school, and the teachers would get a little upset. The teachers, the principals, the faculty, and all that would get pretty upset when we would go to the deli instead of just going straight home from the school, because I believe the rule was that they are still responsible for us until we step foot in the house. But anyhow, so we went to the deli. On one side of the wall was Mortal Kombat 2. On another side of the wall was Street Fighter 2. So I saw that there was a bunch of people playing Street Fighter 2, so I said, well, instead of waiting in line, I'm just going to go play Mortal Kombat 2. And, I'm a little girl. I see the female character dressed in pink. I'm like, that's my character. That's great. Until I found out she was an absolute ferocious man-eating beast, which made her even more awesome.
Literally, one of her fatalities, she swallows you and spits out the bones, I believe.
Yep. So, of course, I'm, visually attracted to the girl dressed in pink. Cool, great. She is still my favorite female video game character.
You've cosplayed her before?
I have cosplayed her, yes, I have.
There you go.
Yeah, you can find those pictures on my Facebook, so if you want to,
we may actually wind up digging them out, featuring them on the page.
Yeah, if you want to do
cosplaying.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But anyhow, so I was button mashing. I didn't know a thing about Mortal Kombat 2 when I started playing it, and then I figured out all her moves, and I figured out her fatality.
Once you get that book, the video game book with all the moves in it, you're studying it. You even bring it to the arcade a couple times, practice, like when the arcade or the deli, wherever it was pretty quiet, and you could put a few quarters in.
Mm-hmm. So I figured out the button combinations to do her fatality, and as soon as I perform the fatality, who comes up behind me but my school principal? Oh boy. This was absolutely hilarious. So you see Melina performing whatever fatality I had done, and it's violent, and Melina is a violent, seductive,
assassin. She was an assassin.
Yeah. So she does her fatality, and it's bloody, it's gory, it's gross. And I'm looking at it like, yay, I defeated my enemy, and I did something really cool. Oh no, my principal was, what the hell are you doing? Why are you playing Mortal Kombat? Why aren't you at home? What does your mother say about all this? So, I told my mom when I came home, Mommy, I played a game called Mortal Kombat and I killed my opponent. And she said, okay, but did you do your homework? Yes, Mommy, I did all my homework. Okay, good. Okay. So, it's not that, it isn't that, she didn't care what I was doing or she wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. She realized, and I realized too, it's just a stupid video game.
Yeah, it was. Funny thing, I got Mortal Kombat for Christmas one year. Actually, I got the Game Gear version. Why? Because, I don't know. I liked my Game Gear at the time. Even though I barely used it as a portable system because the battery life was so wretchedly bad. I still, actually, funny story, took it with me on vacations before I figured out how to hook up my Nintendo to random TVs. So, one of my vacations, I packed my Game Gear with me, packed a few games. Mortal Kombat was one of them. When my parents bought me this game, they were concerned with the violence because they heard about it on the news. So, they wanted to see me play it, because, hey, that's a good way to parent instead of just believing everything you hear on TV, especially about something like this. Hey, why not check it out? Let's see what's so bad about it. So, of course, I play it. I play around and whoop. I believe I was Scorpion and whooped Johnny Cage. I did the whole thing with the spear and everything. And my mom's looking at this game and looks at me and goes, "What's the controversy about?" And walks away like, you're fine with that game. Mm-hmm. I didn't tell her I didn't put the blood code in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, put the blood code in. Yep.
Didn't actually put the blood code in, but you know. Still remember the blood code. It was 2-1-2 down up for the Game Gear version. And of course, it's the second most famous code in history for the Genesis version. ABACABV. The second most famous code to the Konami code.
Rest in peace, Konami.
Yeah.
And I say this in the most sarcastic form because of what they've done to Metal Gear and all them.
Yeah, well, this is what happens when you get idiot designers behind like a treasured franchise.
We love you, Kojima.
Another fun thing about arcades, that was the highlight of some of my vacations. We used to go to a shore town, Atlantic Ocean, New Jersey Shore. Everyone knows about the Jersey Shore, except for the fact that, those idiots on the show, Jersey Shore, don't give an accurate representation of what you're seeing.
They don't represent us.
No, but,
Especially considering they're all Italian, and I'm not Italian.
Hey, I'm Italian.
Well, I don't like you then.
That is the worst Italian stereotype, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, because I'm not Italian.
That was the worst.
You might be my cousin, as far as Italy and Greece goes. Because if we were ever related, I would, I don't know,
Hey,
cry.
what's the matter? I don't do that. I've never done that. The thing with the hand gesture, like bad.
Italians don't really do that.
No. And I've lived on a street. My neighbors were Italian. As in they grew up and lived for 30-something years in Fiorentina. They came over here, spoke, English with very thick Italian accents. I've never in my life once seen my neighbors do that hand gesture. Ever. In my life. People do it. I've seen it done.
Yeah.
People do it, but
not as much as people say.
Yeah, but I'm just going off on
Yeah, but basically,
yeah. We'll say the Jersey Shore is actually a fun place, especially if you're a kid. You go to one of those fun shore towns. They have amusement rides, and the best part is they have arcades everywhere. One shore town my cousins used to stay at, we used to visit them while we were on vacation. They had a deli and a pizza place right down the street from where they were staying. And they used to have a pit fighter machine there.
Ooh.
That's going back a ways. Pit fighter machine and Miss Pac-Man machine, a few other things, just at this deli. You go there, it's like 4 or 5 arcade machines, deli / pizza / sandwiches. It was an awesome place. And then you get to the boardwalk, and then you have these mega arcades, just lining up everywhere. Skee ball, obviously the big thing. But, the skee ball is still around, still exists, and is still very much popular. All these there's arcades everywhere. You go up and down the boardwalk, and arcades here, arcades there. Another short town, Promenade, actually, it had. But it had arcades as well, and, we had a small arcade nearby, and if we wanted to walk a bit, we had a much larger arcade a little farther down. They had so many games. I used to spend most of my allowance on vacation on Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. I think I've beaten it finally after playing through it God knows how many times. I used to just put all my quarters in right then and there, and it's just like, I'm just going to keep playing. That was the arcade experience for me, playing that, especially when people join in and start whooping Foot Clan butt with you. It went up to 4 players. Those 4-player games were fun. It's just a little pain in the ass because you didn't know where to stand. Because, if you have 4 people surrounding this machine, you do take up some space, so you're holding the controller, the joystick at an awkward angle. So it was aside from that challenge, it was, shore vacations were a blast. All the games they had, they had a Play Touch 10, so you wanted to show off your Nintendo skills. Yeah, I'm going to put in a quarter, I don't care, I get 5 minutes, I'm just going to whoop this game's, ass for as long as I can. That was fun, seeing a Mario Brothers machine and being totally stumped how to play it because I was like a little 6-year-old that had no idea how to play this game. But you know what? I figured it out after a while. Also, all the other, like some of the classics they had there. I still haven't seen a Sinistar machine, but I have finally played the Sinistar arcade game, like through other means, obviously, but yeah, there's nothing like going to an arcade, and especially in the 90s. Like, everyone glorifies the arcade age as like 1980 to like 1984. Which, obviously, yeah, that's where most kids are spending their Saturday nights in that era. But in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, the arcades were just as fun. They had a lot to do. And when you found an arcade, that was like one of the highlights of your vacation.
Mm-hmm. We had this really, really big arcade in Atlantic City. I remember it was around the... Like, I'm a big fighting game fan. Obviously, we've mentioned this in a couple earlier podcasts. So,
oh, absolutely.
Around between 1998 and 2002, I'd say it was kind of like a big era for fighting games, especially with the Dreamcast coming out.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was like Street Fighter 3, it was Tekken 4, it was Marvel vs. Capcom 1, Street Fighter Alpha, the Alpha series, Project Justice.
Wasn't Tekken open then?
They were at 4 by that point.
Tekken 4, wow.
I believe they were at 4 at that point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 5 will come out a couple of years later. Like, some of those Tekken games have a big gap. Like, I believe 6 and 7, there's like at least a 10-year gap between.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like a 8 to 10 year gap.
Yeah, they issued a lot of them, like, back in the day. I know that.
Right, yeah, and I remember this particular arcade. It was... I believe it was around the year 2001, because the arcade didn't last long. There was a food court above, and that caught fire. Then the entire mall caught fire, so that arcade went bye-bye. But it was, out of every arcade I've been to, this is probably my favorite. It had, like, games from Japan that had just come over.
They actually imported games over here.
They were importing games over. They were all dubbed in English, for the most part. But they were games that they had just brought over, like games that weren't even out yet on the consoles here. Like, Ken and Spike was one of them. Still one of my favorite games. It's kind of like a Smash TV, just with like a couple Capcom All-Stars. I believe Charlie Nash was in it, Cammy was in it, Mega Man X. Who else? Boletta from...
Final Fight?
No. Vampire Savior, Darkstalkers. Well, her Japanese name was Boletta, her English name is BB Hood.
Uh-huh.
But I call her Boletta. It makes more sense because she fights with bullets and guns and...
I guess they couldn't really... Well, even like in the early 2000s, like they had like a very... They started censoring like guns and stuff like on TV, and actually MTV was famous for not many people watched it back in the early 2000s, like with the exception of like TRL and stuff, but... they would censor images of guns, like, they would censor the word gun. It was blurred out of every video, so, they were trying to make gun like a dirty word, so, thanks to, like, that backlash around that time, I guess they couldn't call her Bulla.
Yeah, they ended up just calling her BB Hood. Well, I mean, it made sense because she was supposed to be a Little Red Riding Hood proxy, so... Yeah. But that was just one of the coolest arcades ever, and there was like other like unknown lesser games that people didn't even really know about that I was playing. Like I was playing what did I say the game was called? Like Mace the.
What was it?
It was called. It was like a medieval fighter.
Oh, nice.
If I can look it up right now, Mace
the
Dark Age.
Mace the Dark Age.
Yeah,
ooh.
That was a cool game. I remember it was kind of like a Killer Instinct clone, but it was like all medieval looking.
Going back.
Primal Rage was another
Primal
one.
Rage.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Ray, you have some experience with Primal Rage?
The ridiculous button combinations to do all the moves and stuff. It just wasn't very ergonomic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a lot of the SNK fighting games too had those problems. Yeah, Art of Fighting and.
Peace, Howard.
It's like you get the video game magazines to show you how to do these button combos. It's like I'm never gonna remember that.
Dude, I can't even do like half the shit that like they do in Street Fighter V. Like.
Oh yeah, no. Some of these moves are ridiculous. Like how much do you have to play to get this good?
I don't know. Like I still have the guide for Tekken Tag Tournament 2, and I was trying to figure out like one particular player or one particular fighter, and just I could not figure out how to do one move because it was just all it's like this huge button combination, and I saw someone do it online, and I'm just like, have fun with that. I do not have the button strength, or I don't have the finger strength, I don't have the coordination to do anything like this. I mean, this is like a 15 move thing, and it's just, and everyone knows how Tekken plays. Like, you kind of juggle the guy from one side of the wall to the next side of the wall, and I'm just like.
So I played my Tekken. I was just a button masher.
I mean,
I fully.
A lot of people button mash. I was button mashing that game for a long time.
Yeah. Button. I used to be the king of the button mashing.
Yeah, like I used to do that with.
None of my friends could beat me.
Yeah, it depends on the character you play as. If I tried to play with Jin Kazama and button mashed, I would have like the worst time because his moveset is not designated for button mashers. If I played as Halrong and button mashed, I'd be the king of the Taekwondo people. Yeah, because he was a button mash character. You try to button mash with certain characters, you're gonna have a bad time.
Oh yeah. As you mentioned that medieval, the Mace game, the medieval fighting game, it brought me back a bit, actually, to that Exhilarama place. It was the only place in North America. Well, I haven't been to many places back then, but this is the only place I've seen Golden Axe: The Return of Death Adder.
Oh.
Which. I don't care. It had a reputation as being kind of boring, but you know what? I had a blast playing that. The characters were inventive. It was fun. Man, yeah, that was a fun arcade game. I'm not even gonna read some of the reviews. I thoroughly enjoyed putting many quarters into that machine.
I think that's also where I first found out about Virtua Fighter.
Ooh.
And yeah, because after playing Tekken, I got into more of the 3D fighters, like Virtua Fighter.
That was a big thing then. Virtua Fighter, Toshinden was the other one that came out around that time.
Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur, the original one.
Yep. Which I'm actually not good at 3D fighting games.
It is a lot of button mashing.
Yeah, it's a lot of sidestepping.
Yeah, my first experience was my friend, as a graduation gift from grade school, wound up getting a Sega Saturn, and we used to play Virtua Fighter because that was the only game he had. That's the only one. They launched titles. There was like 4 or 5 good launch titles, but after buying a $400 system, I think it was like $400 back in the day. When it first came out, he didn't have, couldn't ask his parents for anything else. So, wound up getting the Sega Saturn. We wound up having a Virtual Fighter tournament, and yeah, that was my first experience. It was fun. I don't look too fondly back on those days anymore, though, because I don't know what it is. Personally, this is just preference. I might be getting a ton of hate mail for saying this, but the 3D games of the late 90s, the 32-bit era, I can't really revisit because
a lot of them are just really clunky.
A lot of them did not age well. It's like I could sit down and play whatever 8 and 16-bit titles, and I could figure out point-and-click adventures for the computer, which were basically had to make all kinds of commands using the commands at the bottom of the screen, etc., point-and-click adventures, text-driven adventures. I could do all that. For some reason, when games were starting to, everything had to be 3D in that early part of the 32-bit wars, before the Xbox came out, before, when it was just the Sega Saturn, the PlayStation, Nintendo didn't even have a system out then. They still had the Super Nintendo. They didn't have the Nintendo 64 for another year. You have all of these 3D games coming out. Everything had to be 3D. Everything had to look like 3D-ish because this is the new technology. I can't sit down. I don't have this urge to play Virtua Fighter.
I mean, I have the latest Virtua Fighter game that came out. I think it came out a couple years ago. I was still at the GameStop. My first GameStop, so it had to have been at least 2014 at least. But that game, it really didn't age well, and then especially when they started putting the, I think they put, who did they put in? Jackie, Sarah, Pi, and Akira in Dead or Alive 5, and even that, they felt like outdated.
Yeah.
And they felt a lot more clunkier than the actual Dead or Alive characters.
Okay, let's get into some other, games. I think Square had Bushido Blade, which was their fighting game.
Oh, that game. The thing is...
Toshinden was out. None of these games
did not age well.
No. The original Tekken, even. I could play it.
I don't think I could play it.
The original Tekken didn't really age all that well, either.
No, it didn't start to look nice for me until 3, maybe.
Yeah, 2, same thing. It didn't really age well. That was the thing. With the PlayStation, it did the Street Fighter series justice. When Alpha came out for the Sony PlayStation, it felt like an arcade game. The only difference was the loading screens, which drove me nuts.
Yeah, the whole anime sprites thing was really cute. I loved the Alpha designs.
Yeah, it was everything was really cool about Alpha. And I was definitely a dedicated follower of it in the arcade.
Yeah,
I loved it in the arcade. It was something fresh. Back then I didn't even follow video game magazines all that much because most of the ones the one I subscribed to went completely stupid. Mm-hmm. They dumbed down everything. So it was I stopped following video game magazines for a bit and wound up not even knowing this game was released. I just wound up at an arcade at a mall one day. I was bored in this mall because my parents wanted to go shop. I usually just, back at that point, went off on my own because I'm like this rebellious kid. I don't want to fucking wear what my parents want me to wear. So they're shopping in the Gap and stuff. I'm wandering around this mall. It's just send me to the music store. I could spend a few good amount of time there. It had a computer game store, which is awesome. That place went belly under because it wasn't a corporate gaming store, but they had everything in there. You walk in there, it's computer games, wall-to-wall computer games, strategy guides. It's sit there and read some of the strategy guides they had out. And they had an arcade too in this mall. So it wound up, for some reason, being in a far corner of the mall, but it was still there. So you wound up sneaking off, finding the arcade, going in there. The arcade was huge. They had a WWF WrestleFest game.
Ooh.
That was so much fun. I remember that in the arcade. And, having, basically Hulk Hogan came on the screen, told you to button mash to get out of a pin, or you had to put more money in order to regain your health and, win the match, blah, blah, blah. So that was fun. But anyway, they had an Alpha machine, just, unannounced, sitting there. I think it was in a row of games. I was like, what? So I put it in the quarter. I started playing it. It blew me away. It was amazing. So when it finally came out for the PlayStation, I had to get it, and I enjoyed every minute of playing that game.
Yeah, I would say the Alpha series is probably my favorite series of the Street Fighter.
Yes, and it aged well. It aged particularly well. I can boot up my PlayStation, which is in my closet right now. I can just hook it up to the TV, put in that Street Fighter Alpha disc, play it like it's new, and thoroughly enjoy it. Loved it. Oh man, I loved it.
I remember I was at Blockbuster and Street Fighter Alpha 1 had come out on the Super Nintendo, which really had no business coming out on the Nintendo because that system could not handle that game.
No, I played it in my adult era because, it was very hard to find the SNES titles in 1998 when the system was technically still around, but on its last leg, because even then, the Nintendo 64 was out by then. So, this is one of 2 releases for the Super Nintendo that year. So, playing it, I'm just like, what?
And
they really dumbed this down. I mean, I was expecting something akin to Street Fighter, the Super Street Fighter 2 game they ported over to the Super Nintendo. It's not the arcade, but it was fun. No, that game was a piece of shit.
It really was. And we're not saying that Alpha 1 is a piece of shit. We're saying the SNES
that's
version.
It was Alpha 2. They ported. They never ported
Alpha 2.
1.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, no, it was
Alpha
a piece
2.
of shit. The PlayStation version was awesome, though.
Right, and I remember when I saw the front cover, it looked like a guy who looked like Ryu, and I said, that looks like Ryu. I have never heard of this Alpha series before, so let me rent it, let me see what it's like. And then I said to myself, okay, I'm looking at the roster. I didn't recognize any of these characters. I recognized Berlento from Final Fight. I recognized Ken and Ryu and Chun-Li, obviously, but Chun-Li had a different outfit on.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, okay, Guile's not in this game. And then the name Charlie popped up, and I said, well, I recognize this name as the guy who Guile was trying to figure out what happened to him. And I said, so this is what he looks like. Okay, that's cool. I like this design. I think I might play as him. And then I recognized Guy from Final Fight. I liked Rose's design, so I played as her for a while. And, then I said to myself, well, where's Cammy? And I think she ended up showing up in Alpha 3 as her Killer Bee incarnation.
Nice.
So, but I think she was a secret boss in Alpha 2, I think, if under certain conditions.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. The Alpha series started introducing all of these secret characters. I mean, Akuma's in Super Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
You could play as him, but the Alpha series had all these hidden characters. And, Bison was a hidden character in Alpha 1. Just a few others. I'm trying to think. Believe... Was it Rose? Or was she... No, she was regular.
Yeah, she was regular.
Regular. There's a few other... Dan was the other one.
Yep.
They're... well, yep.
Don.
Well, for all intents and purposes, we all called him Danny.
Yeah, Danny
Don
Boy.
Hibiki.
Danny Boy.
Which was supposed to be a pun and a joke on, I think it was Ryo Yamazaki.
Yeah.
I think from the
Art
SNK
Fighting,
series.
yeah.
Art Fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was also a play, because a lot of his moves were bad button combinations, so it's like a subtle jab at, hey, so why are you putting out all of these Street Fighter clones for your system, SNK?
So we're just going to one-up you by putting out Danabiki.
We're the originals, just
and
remember.
then they decided to give him, like, this, quote, tragic backstory of him trying to defeat Sagat because Sagat killed his father.
Oh, man.
And that his father, Go Hibiki, was the one who had taken out Sagat's eye.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
Yeah, so that was the whole backstory. They tried to make Dan a legit character with it, but instead he's just still a joke.
Yeah.
He gets his ass beat by Sakura every other day.
Yeah.
It's like it's to the point where, like, in the comics where he has his own suite because he's there like every other day. Like, like there was one scene in the comics where Sakura and her friend Kai or Kay, whatever her name was, they carried Dan to the emergency office, and she's like, or the emergency room, like the front desk, and the nurse was like, all right, what happened to you this time? And then she looked at the two girls and she's like, okay, go upstairs, your suite's waiting for you. And like, he had his own suite, he had his own wing, and it was just it was funny. Like, I have seen people play online as Dan and like really kick some ass with him. So, I mean, they buffed him pretty well in the subsequent Street Fighter 4 series.
That was the funny thing. It was like Zangief. Zangief in Street Fighter 2 was fairly useless, but you know what? People figured out how to make him work anyway.
Dude, he would kick my ass. And the thing about him is that you're supposed to stay away from him, because if he comes near you, you can start doing like spinning pile drivers and all that.
Well, that was the thing. Like, he was a wrestler.
Right, yeah.
So,
I mean,
he's a Russian bear, they nicknamed him. So
yeah,
he had like, just wrestling moves. And, he was very vulnerable to, like, fireballs, and, you basically had to stay away from him so he couldn't grapple you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Turbo came out, they gave him a spinning, like, I guess it was like a spinning clothesline, they called it.
Spinning lariat,
But you could duck fireballs using this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, all of a sudden, this guy's a challenge now. Because you gotta kind of get close to him to hit him. Mm-hmm. Kind of close.
Well, I think he was vulnerable to low weak attacks.
Yeah, he was.
Mm-hmm.
By the time Super Street Fighter 2 came out, he had this thing where he could block fireballs entirely. Like, he had this like glowing fist. It's just like it just blocked fireballs. Did no damage whatsoever. It wasn't like holding the block button. Like it's basically negated. So they evolved him over the years, and I imagine it was because people used to play as him in Street Fighter 2 because they wanted a challenge, and watching someone beat you with Zangief was kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you.
I think it was the ones who I hated losing to the most was either Zangief or Blanca.
Oh yeah, Blanca, yeah, definitely. And then my friend had this one strategy, which, me as a very rookie Street Fighter 2 player, definitely was not susceptible to. He used to play as Vega on the Champion Edition, and as soon as the fight started, he did that slide, nothing but the slide.
Oh, God.
Just hold it down, slide, until the point where, you're just like, stop that! Because you couldn't even mount an assault until you kind of figured out, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to block that and then hit him with a spinning kick.
Jump over it.
Well, he used to do it really quick. As soon as he had found, because there's no button. It was just you hold down and hit the button.
Yeah.
So I figured out this trick. I would be Ken, and the second he did that, I would leap real quick, just straight up, and then a spinning, the spinning dragon kick, or however you say it, to the bicep, however it is. Yeah.
That's Maxim Puka.
Thank you. Thanks, Rick. But yeah, I finally figured it out, whooped his ass, and
yeah, it's like once you figure out,
he never used that strategy on me again.
It's like when you finally got to the four kings. I believe that was the official title of them, the Shiteno in the Japanese version.
Yeah.
Now it was always like Balrog was the easiest one. Then you had Vega. Then you had Sagat. Then you had Bison.
Yeah.
Or if you were playing the Japanese, it was
and Bison was the boxer.
Yep. Balrog was Vega. Sagat was Sagat, and Vega was Bison.
Yeah. Like Bison, they always assumed it stood for Major. In reality, it stood for Mike because it was a play off Mike Tyson. It's supposed to be Mike Bison.
Or as we just call him.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, he was in Street Fighter 1.
Yeah, or as people within the tournament scene just call them Boxer, Claw, and Dictator. So
yeah. There you go.
Makes it a little bit easier. But Sagat was the one. He was the trickiest one. I always thought Vega was the hardest. Sagat was the trickiest.
Vega was so quick.
Right.
And some of his moveset, when he did his level had the cage. When you did the moves where he jumped on the cage,
they were completely unblockable.
Yeah, he was impossible to hit. The only thing he could really do is either try to certain moves you could counter with a Shoryuken. But for the most part, you just had to roll out of the way and then try to mount some kind of counter offense.
You had to really watch what he was doing, but he was just so fast where...
Yeah, it was really tough, especially he used to do that roll, he used to do a backflip to get out of the way of attacks. When he was doing the backflip, you couldn't hit him. When he was on the cage, you couldn't hit him. As he's climbing the cage, you can't get any sheep shots in. He's completely invulnerable for the few seconds he's climbing that cage. And then, his timing was all wacky on there, so you don't know when he was about to leap off that cage.
And the thing is, he had 3 different moves that he could do. He could dive at you,
or he could do the claw, the thing where he just drills on you?
Yeah, it's he either drilled on you, or he would come at you with a clothesline,
a pile driver thing,
or he would pile drive you. Yeah. So, and you didn't know which one was he was going to do. You didn't know when he was going to do it.
The nasty suplex as well.
Oh God! Oh my God! Yeah. But the thing about Sagat was that honestly, Vega was the easiest character to defeat Sagat with because he eventually ended up becoming vulnerable to low attacks. But
that's
the thing about
his Tiger Punch though could go low. And he used to alternate them as he would alternate up at high and low. I mean, you could block him with any fireball, but at the same time, it's you're at a standoff because he's just shooting one tiger after another at you.
And then if you get close to him, remember he's 7 foot tall and he's a Muay Thai character.
So he's got long reach,
long fucking legs. So.
And his dragon punch hurts.
Yep.
The tiger uppercut, it hurt. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he was definitely one of the toughest bosses in that game.
Yeah, he was. Honestly,
I have some fun. Kids these days playing Street Fighter 5. It's I imagine.
No idea.
No, they do because a lot of these characters, you're looking at them play, and it's oh man, they're probably I'm imagining a 14, 13-year-old, something like that, playing Street Fighter 5 right now, probably going through some of the same thought processes that we were going through as kids playing Street Fighter 2. Mm-hmm. The ridiculous.
Well, they don't have to worry about Sagat in Street Fighter 5.
No,
so.
No.
They have to worry about Fang now.
Oh yeah.
He can throw poison balls at you, and your health meter will go down, but it didn't last long. But I think they have to worry now about Lara because she's I believe she's like MMA grappler or so, and whatever you do, like if you try to jump, like she'll always counter you, and like she'll like, you know, she's here and you're here, and you jump at her, she will jump in the air, counter you, and do a move and knock you down. So she was, I guess, kind of like, I guess that's like, I guess she was MMA.
Yeah.
I think
like a grappler, like a tough grappler.
Yeah, tough grappler. Yeah, which is not what you see often from Brazilian fighters. They're mostly capoeira. Or,
most MMA is actually based in like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right. I believe she is a Jiu-Jitsu character. Now that I think about it,
MMA is like most of those guys are trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right, but most Brazilian fighters that I've seen in gamers are capoeira.
I guess so, but well, you know, I guess to get away from that stereotype, especially if you're doing an MMA fighter, you know, you have someone from Brazil, you know, did learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu naturally.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, if I still had Street Fighter V, or if I had Street Fighter V, I would probably be playing as Lara. I liked her design; she was cute.
I'm an old schooler. Give me Ryu, Ken, or you know, even Chun-Li. I've whooped plenty of asses with Chun-Li.
So have I.
Actually, they did an interview with a guy from way back in the day. This is like, you know, Video Game Magazine in '94 with the Street Fighter II champion at the time, and he surprised everyone by saying like the character he mastered the most was Guile, because no one could beat him as Guile. Like he had the moves like memorized, because Guile had some pretty fierce moves, with the exception of you had to charge up his Sonic Boom, so that made things a little difficult. But you know, playing as him on like playing against the computer, like as Guile, you know, when you're like, you know, Ryu or Ken, he's like ridiculously tough. But yeah, I could see like a player adapting this style and
making it their own,
being near invincible. Because you think about it, Guile did have a counter for just about everything. So nowadays, it's like, actually, I was watching Evo, and someone decided to pick Zangief, so another person decided to. Basically, the announcers were saying they went away from like his traditional character and picked Guile in order to counter him, and you know, because you know, Zangief's a slow character, and Guile's a quicker, so he picked the agile and basically finessed his way to a victory with a character he's like not as familiar with as like some of the other characters he's used.
Yeah, some of these people.
So it was pretty fascinating watching that. And, you know, at the same time, it's like, you know, a lot of this is based in retro. Like, this is a 2D game. Street Fighter didn't try to go, like, 3D like some of the other fighting games did.
Well, they did with the EX series.
Yeah, it wasn't...
But the EX series really wasn't much of a commercial success. But a lot of people still like it. A lot of people love it and play it.
It was an experiment. Honestly, I think the most successful fighting game I've seen for... Well, we'll do PS3, because, you know, it was Mortal Kombat 9.
Oh my god.
Because, you know, the way they presented that, you know, and...
It's
still a 2.5D fighting game, but they showed it, like, you know, as an interactive movie, and... It was fantastic, like, you know, so this is, like, a tried and true method, like a 2D fighter is really, like, you know, popular again, and it has nothing to do with the retro culture, it's just, if it's broke, you know, why fix it? Because they've tried that for many years and realized 2D fighters just work the best, especially for these tournaments, so that's why I have, like, Street Fighter V. I mean, granted, Tekken 7 was 3D and it worked really well, too, so, it's, you know...
some things it needs to fix up.
Don't every game need
Wei Wulong?
Yeah, every game needs something, you know.
Where is Wei Wulong?
Yeah. But anyway, just talking about like some of the old arcade experiences and stuff. It's like, you know, the more things change with a lot of these things, the more they stay the same. And that's the one message we can take away. Like, you know, we were doing basically, you know, people make fun of these whiny millennials and this and that, and whatever generation is out there now about to, like, you know, enter high school and college. I don't even know if they're still called millennials or whatever. People bitch, whine, and moan. You know, back in my day, we used to do this, we used to do that. Granted, we were very much guilty of this through doing a retro podcasting, talking about, like, you know, swearing off most modern video gaming, but most of the games doing well right now are about the same ideas as some of the games we had when we were kids. And especially with like the success of Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7, it's like these are all ideas based off of, you know, ideas we had back in the day. Even Call of Duty, shit, we were playing that game when it was called Doom. You know?
much.
And Quake, you know, the new Quake's about to come out, actually. So, you know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You can make fun of millennials, but at the same time, they're just having different experiences you're having, but some of the experiences they're having are very similar to the stuff you were doing at 12 and 13, including sneaking off, you know, school to go to the deli or whatever and play Mortal Kombat 2. Now
And getting caught by your principal.
Yeah. Now these kids are sneaking off to some deli, busting out their Nintendo Switch, and playing each other in Splatoon.
Or I would hope that these people or these kids don't carry their portable machines to school because they can get them stolen.
Yeah, that is a big, big problem.
Yep.
I have had a Game Boy stolen once.
So have I.
Well, I've never had my Game Boy stolen. I've had a video game stolen because I lent it to someone, and they let me borrow something, and, you know, it was an even trade. We played, and then, you know, I gave it back, and for some reason the kid gave it back to me, but then, like, you know, for some reason I think I went to the bathroom, and I was back, that game was gone. I think someone rummaged through my book bag and stole my copy of Sonic 3.
No. Mm-mm.
Didn't get it back for years.
I remember someone had stolen my Game Boy, and once I figured out who it was, I went to the house, just walked in the house, took it right back, and he's like, you just took my Game Boy. I'm like, no, this is mine. My initials are right on it. See? Look, N, that's an N. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does your name start with an N? Does your name have an N in it? No, it doesn't. See ya.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
don't talk to me again. When I see you in school, you try to talk to me, I'm putting you in your locker.
You were a bully. Damn.
I was just defensive. Like,
That's what they called it back then, defensive. Oh no, if I see you, kid, I'm putting you in a locker.
Okay, I guess that is kind of bullying. But he stole from me. What was I supposed to do?
Stole it right back and be like, look, don't steal from me again.
Yeah, bye.
Bad things are going to happen.
Yep, exactly.
No, like, if you try to say hi to me, I'm going to put you in a locker.
You're scary.
How long have you known me?
Yeah, and
I have
surprisingly,
always been
she
this
still
scary.
has not killed us yet.
You should have
working
seen what
on
I did to kids when I was in kindergarten. I was the queen of the castle.
Oh,
Anyone
man.
who tried to get in that castle, I would knock them right off.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki, you're mean. You're causing a lot of these kids to, like, you know, to be adults now, have to go to therapy and everything.
Great.
Be inadequate with their lives.
You should have seen what I did to my brother when I was little. Jeez, my mom had to put a separator in the playpen because we used to fight all the time.
Shit. Alright, if you want to send Nikki Valium or whatever...
No pills.
No pills, I'm just kidding. Please don't send us pills.
Please don't do that.
But if you want to send her recommendations for good psychiatrists, please write the 240p Club at 240pclub.com.
I will also accept chocolates and candies and roses.
Man, you give her all that, she will be fine for an hour. Especially a box of chocolate. Yeah, she'll be good all day.
Oh yeah, I just roll around like, chocolate! Well, luckily I got a lot of my violence out of the way as a kid.
Yeah.
So I'm not as violent.
So you're good, you're good.
I take Taekwondo class, so...
You channel your aggression now in video games, which basically is a very good way of channeling your aggression.
It can be.
Unless you rage quit and all this wonderful stuff. If you have a temper like that, you know,
You might want to
might not be for you.
Sit down, take a breather.
I can tell you right now, though, I'm not that good at a lot of multiplayer games, but I will sit down and take out a lot of my work frustrations out on some of those bandit clans in Skyrim. That is fun.
One game that I really enjoy playing just to get rid of frustrations is Dynasty Warriors. You just get to kick and punch and stab people.
Sometimes on horseback.
Sometimes on horseback, and you get a pretty engaging story too. Depends on which version you're playing.
There you go.
You get pretty attached to the characters once they start dying, and it gets pretty sad.
Speaking of health and video games, we've long talked about doing a podcast based on
Just mental and physical health, depending on or pertaining to video gaming.
Yes, exactly. What video games does to your mental health, your physical health, what sitting for a long period of time in front of a screen will do to your body, etc., etc. We wanted to talk to a couple of doctors about this, a couple of specialists in different fields, and we're going to segue into it because we usually mention it every time, but let's just put it to you this way. If you have serious aggression issues where you look like a kid on a video that throws a PlayStation 4 out a window for losing, you may need to find another outlet for your rage.
And if you're willing to throw your PS4 out the window, how about you give it to me instead?
Yeah, that's it.
I got room in my house for it.
Don't blame your system for the fact that your opponent just happens to be better than you. Accept it, curse a bit, for when you lose, but then be like, good game.
And don't send hate mail. Please don't send hate mail.
Yeah, no, don't be that asshole that sends hate mail.
I like receiving hate mail.
What? You're just going to give our listeners some ideas now.
Could be. You should have seen the hate mail I got playing Mortal Kombat 9 back in the day.
Oh, I know.
Oh, man, there was someone threatening to, kick my ass.
You know what was funny? Yeah, you know what was funny, actually, about that? There was a instance, I've brought this up on here multiple times, too. Was an instance of a kid, basically, rage quitting because he lost, I think it was in Mortal Kombat. Rage quits, curses, sends this nasty email, finds out the opponent's a woman, sends this nasty, nasty stuff about what he's going to do to her. Woman's like, okay, forwarded it, found the kid's mother's email address, took a screenshot, forwarded it to her, and is like, do you know what your son is communicating with online people like this? I'm not sending this, as a threat or anything. I'm just, making you aware. The mother got back to her and was like, thank you for bringing attention to this. You will not be seeing my son too much playing these video games anymore. Mm-hmm. So, lesson learned, you start sending hateful mail, hateful everything, just because you got your butt whooped in Mortal Kombat or whatever game you're playing.
And swatting is not cool either, don't do it.
No. You need to unplug, man. Unplug. Get a different hobby. Get a different game. Just do something with your life to get that rage out. Because no one wants to, play you in a game, you whoop them, and then, you get every sort of, racial slur and this and that. It's 2017. Can't we just love each other, Or even not love each other, just hate you, temporarily while we're engaged in combat. Then the proverbial handshake, good game, you did better, I want a rematch, whatever. But, I'm just being a stupid hippie, I think, at this point, bringing that up. Anyway, from all of us at the 240p Club, my name is Stupid Hippie.
I am Lovely Nikki.
And in the corner over here is Ray.
Silent Ray. I didn't say much this time.
Yeah, that's
and my brother Phil's over here, too.
Yeah, Phil was half asleep during our podcast, yeah.
I really was.
Yeah, no, you kind of freaked out and
Yeah, you kind of jumped up and.
But here's a funny thing: I was looking at your finger. It looked like you were wiggling your finger. Were you playing a video game in your dream? You might have been playing some Mortal Kombat.
It might have been your subconscious because Ray's playing with his.
Ray's playing Splatoon 2 right now.
And you were watching him play.
Yeah.
So. It's
very possible in your subconscious. I want to cover this, damn it, on the medical podcast.
Oh!
Subconscious activity.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anyway, let's plug the websites, 240pclub.com, facebook.com/240pclub. We have Twitter at 240pclub, Instagrams at 240pclub, and most importantly, twitch.tv/240pclub, where you can watch us play a bunch of retro games and see us rage quit, and once in a while have us all together racing, playing some two-player games, playing some multiple games on many computers. So, exciting times here at the 240p Club. We look forward to the next podcast. We look forward to seeing all of you. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
Ciao.